Please introduce yourself, state your name and DOC number for the record.
Troy Henry, 397821.
Hi, Troy. My name is Brennan Kessler. Along with me is Miss Bonnie Jackson. Mr. Tony Marabella will be your panel. Explain the process to you, read some information to the record, have a parole interview, ask you some questions. You can respond. At the end, you can make a statement, take a vote. You understand the process?
Yes, sir.
And we do have Herman Robinson that will be in attendance that'll speak at the appropriate. Troy Henry, DOC number 397821. You're a second class offender for eligibility date 12/23/2023. Good time date 5/24/2029. Full term 12/21/2033. A 30-year sentence. Armed robbery, false imprisonment, offender, arms, possession of schedule 4, diazepam, possession of schedule 1, possession of intent to distribute marijuana, possession of schedule 2, cocaine. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Your answer, Ms. Jackson, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. Henry. How are you doing today?
I'm all right, ma'am.
Just have some questions for you. How old are you?
46,
And how much time have you actually served sentence?
20 years.
So you were in your late 20s when you got arrested and convicted of this offense?
Yes, ma'am.
I was looking at your record and most of your arrests are drug related. And I'm looking at the home invasion. And that seems like that also might have been drug related. You want to tell us about that home invasion and what that was about?
Yes, ma'am. It was a drug deal that went bad. Me being the person I was back then, naive, I was just thinking about myself, thinking about getting drugs.
What happened? Tell me what happened.
I was in the process of making a drug transaction, and everything went out of haywire. And I just went on, got my gun and just took everything back from him.
Well, a home invasion means you forced your way into somebody's house,
Yes, ma'am.
okay? And you were armed with a weapon and you forced your way into somebody's house, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
What happened after you got in the house?
I just went, took everything that I had gave to them and hurried up and left.
What do you mean, everything that you were given?
Marijuana, the diazepams, the little coke that I had.
Take any money?
Yes, ma'am.
And so it wasn't really a drug deal going bad. You went in there and robbed them.
True.
Were you primarily a drug dealer?
Both of them, drug dealer and drug user.
And when did you start using drugs and what kind of drugs did you use?
I used marijuana, ecstasy pills, diazepam, a little coke. I was about 17 when I started.
All right, did you graduate from high school?
No, ma'am.
At what age did you drop out of school?
12th grade, I was 21.
And why were you, how were you 21 in the 12th grade?
Because I failed the 9th grade.
Well, you would have had to fail the 9th grade multiple times, so that wouldn't have made you 21.
I was young when I was going to high school, so I had dropped out and went back.
Were you employed? Have a legitimate job?
Yes, ma'am.
The job.
Working at Shoney's.
Right? When did you start dealing drugs?
About a couple of months after I started working.
But how old are you?
18,
And what kind of drugs were you dealing?
marijuana,
What else?
crack cocaine,
And what was your prior conviction for? Your second offender, which prior conviction?
felony theft charge.
Now, I see that you've lost 318 days of good time. You want to tell us how you managed to lose that much good time?
Intoxications, 14 that I had got.
So how you lost what, 30 days every time? How did you get so many
No, ma'am,
days?
I lost 160 days on each one.
Okay. Okay. And what were you intoxicated on?
Mojo,
What kind of substance abuse programs have you taken since you've been incarcerated?
I'm currently taking AA right now. Took
Okay,
drug,
well, what else have you taken?
I took Drug Dealers Anonymous
Okay.
and Living in Balance, step 1 and 2.
Right. What'd you learn in living in balance?
That I have a higher power that's greater than me that can help me overcome my addiction.
Those are just words. How do you use that? Those are just words. Read that out of the book.
I stay focused and don't think about using anymore. Stay around positive men. Work every day, 7 days a week.
Kind of your job at the prison.
Excuse me, ma'am.
What is your job at the prison?
I'm currently right now a cook and a trustee,
And how long have you been a cook?
13 years,
How long have you been a trustee?
7 years.
When was the last I saw you had 3 write-ups in 2021. Want to tell us about what happened?
That was the last 14 I had caught.
Okay, but you got 3 in 2021. Different dates. Those all intoxication?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you get those after you had completed living in balance?
Yes, ma'am.
So you didn't apply what you learned in living in balance,
No, ma'am.
correct? Why
No,
not?
ma'am. I'm an addict. I'm gonna constantly use.
Well, our concern is, if you can't stay clean in prison, it's gonna be a lot harder on the street to stay clean. So what's your plan to stay sober?
Getting with a sponsor, being able to go to programs at least twice a week, talk to him more so, try to keep myself positive.
See, you got your GED in 2018.
Yes, ma'am.
What is life recovery enhancement? What is that?
That's rehabilitation equals accountable living. That's a process of class that helps us develop life skills, getting close to God as well.
And when did you take that?
22.
And what's the main takeaway you got from that?
That anything is possible through God's grace, love.
Your risk assessment is high, and we rarely see a high risk assessment even for, what appears to be really poor history and poor criminal history, but you rated high on the risk scale. but then they did an old timers risk assessment and you rate low, but you have high needs in a lot of areas. If you were to be successful, where would you live and what kind of work do you have lined up?
I will live with my mother in Prairieville, Louisiana. I would start back working at a restaurant, cooking.
Do you have a job lined up anywhere?
Not possibly until I get out there, ma'am.
So you don't have anything in place?
Excuse me?
Don't have anything in place, definite job in place?
No, ma'am.
Warren, what can you tell us about Mr. Henry?
Troy's been at DCI since 2008, and he's worked in the kitchen. When he says he works 7 days a week, he works 7 days a week, sun up, sundown. I mean, Troy's always working in the kitchen. He's he's a trustee, so he's part of the kitchen crew that kind of does all of the events at the prison, employee awards, things like that. He's currently enrolled in victim impact class. I do think that Troy would probably benefit from some intensive, maybe inpatient substance abuse program. But I mean, since he had the write-up in 2021 and he's stayed out of trouble since then, he's only had 11 write-ups in his total in his incarceration, which is, not the best, but it's pretty good.
Trust me, we've seen worse.
Right. He's also a Pride member.
All right. All right, that's all I have, Mr. Nelson.
We'll hear from Mr. Herb Robinson.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to say I emphatically oppose the release of Mr. Henry. Mr. Henry has sat before y'all and told something that was untrue. The home invasion had nothing to do with a drug deal. We did not know who Mr. Henry was or any of his accomplices were. That particular night, I had received a call from my friend Johnny because we both attended LSU together undergrad. And we were planning to go to Galveston for spring break. So he called me to help him to come load his motorbike up and strap it down on his truck that particular night. So after strapping the motorbike down, I asked him, I said, I hope you don't have to go anywhere tonight because you don't need to be riding around Baton Rouge with this motorbike up on his truck. And that's when he remembered that he needed to go to the store. So I say, you sure? So he said, I'm just going to the store, everything gonna be all right. So he went to the store, he came back home. When he came back home, he went in the house, he put the items inside. Then he came back out, then he had remembered he had forgot something. So he was about to get in his truck and pull off again. So I told him, no, you don't need to be driving that truck. So I gave him my car to take. So I sat inside of his garage and waited on him. And so I got in the truck and I turned on the music, and no longer than a couple of minutes of sitting inside of his truck, I got 3 guys that ran up on me and opened the door, and they all sitting there with assault rifles. Mr. Henry was the one in front, and he was the one who I looked directly into. So I had no problem picking Mr. Henry out of a lineup, even with a bandana over his face. So they yanked me out of the truck and they forced me into the house. And as I'm walking down the house, I knew Johnny's girlfriend was in the house because it was her condo. So as I'm walking down the hall, before I got to the living room, I stopped to try to warn her. And I told her, I said, Amanda, we're being robbed. And so she looked up at me and she was startled. And so I told her again, I said, Amanda, we're being robbed. And that's when one of them jumped from behind me, and he put his assault rifle in her face. So she screamed, she threw the cover over her face. After she threw the cover over her face, he yanked, that particular guy yanked the cover from over her face. He made her sit in the chair. That's when Mr. Henry pushed me over to the sofa and made me get down on my knees. And as I'm getting when I got down on my knees, now they're asking us about drugs and everything. And we constantly telling them, we don't know what you're talking about. And like Amanda had told them, the Amanda told, she was a college student. And like I told him, I said, man, I work. I don't know what y'all talking about. And plus, I don't even live here. So that's when they asked Amanda, who was I. And Amanda told him that was my boyfriend friend from college. Afterwards, that's when Mr. Henry went in my pocket, took my money, and then after he hit me in my head, he busted me in my head twice with the gun, where he split my head open right here, and he split my head open right there. So it then threw the cover over me. So I began bleeding. Afterwards, they made me lay down on the floor. Afterwards, one went upstairs, started tearing her house up. One was downstairs tearing the house up. And they had one standing there watching over us because he came to pat my pockets to see if I still had something in my pockets. And as I rolled over to let him check my pockets, the cover lifted up a little where I was able to see half of his body, the lower part of his body, because he was standing right there watching over us. I could see his assault rifle right there too, which he told me, you better not move, because if you do, I'm gonna blow your effing back off. And afterward, they went through the house, they completely tore the house up. And as I'm laying under covers, I'm like, I can't believe this is happening, because the previous spring I had just graduated from Southern University Law Center and had began working after that. So to be going through all this and all, I could think, man, I didn't even have a chance to even start my career or anything. After they tore up the house, they ran out, they jumped in Johnny's truck, they took his truck and back to Prairieville, because afterwards, when we heard the truck pull up from out of the garage, we got up, we called the police came and everything, we made the report. I had to go to the hospital because I had to get stitches at the top of my head and also below my ear. And luckily, Johnny had OnStar in his truck, where they located his truck in Prairieville at one of them grandmother's house. We never saw them before in our lives. Johnny was from Tampa, Florida, down here attending LSU. I was from New Orleans attending LSU. Amanda was from San Francisco, California, attending Southern.
Okay, yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much for your comment.
Thank you.
All right, would you like to make a statement on your behalf?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
I would like to apologize to Mr. Herman, to all the victims that was a part of this. I want y'all to please forgive me and give me a chance to rehabilitate myself. If the parole board give me a chance to make parole today. Things turned haywire on that night, and please just forgive me. Forgive all of us.
All right.
That I should
All
never,
right, thank you. Go ahead.
that's something I should have never done.
All right, thank you. Now prepare to vote. Ms.
Yes.
Jackson.
Mr. Henry,
Yes, ma'am.
I've got some real concerns. You weren't really forthright about what happened in this case. Obviously, this was an extremely violent, traumatized experience. All the people involved in this case. You lost 318 days of good time. You only had 76 of those restored. By your own admission, most of that was for intoxication. The warden believes that you could benefit from long-term substance abuse treatment and don't seem to have a very strong support network around you, Mr. Henry. You don't have any definite job. And I don't know if living with your mother in itself is sufficient support that you need. So today my vote would be to deny it. Encourage you to seek out more substance abuse programs and go on without receiving any ups of any kind. Keep working at it. Don't get discouraged. But today is not the day for.
Mr. Marabella.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Henry, my vote is likewise the same for the same reasons as out. Ms. Jackson. Good luck to you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
2 votes to deny. I'm also going to vote to deny your parole for the same reasons stated. 3 votes to deny. Today, your parole's been denied. Good luck to you.
Thank you.